The gavel cracked like a gunshot through the stale air of the Manhattan family court, and Jonathan's world shattered for the second time that week. "Custody denied pending further review," the judge intoned, her voice a flat blade slicing through his chest. In his arms, little Ethan, his miracle, his everything, let out a wail that echoed off the vaulted ceilings, his tiny fists pounding against Jonathan's shirt as if he could sense the invisible chains tightening around them both. Austin's hand clamped down on Jonathan's shoulder, knuckles white, his breath hot and ragged against Jonathan's ear. "We're not losing him. Not like this. Not after everything." Jonathan could barely nod, his vision blurring with hot tears that tasted like salt and regret. For years ago, he'd stared down death in a sterile Brooklyn hospital room, whispering promises to a sonogram screen while Austin held his hand through the chemo fog. Now, here they were, fighting not for survival, but for the family they'd clawed from the ashes of illness and doubt. Jonathan met Austin on a rain-slicked sidewalk in Greenwich Village, the kind of chance collision that New Yorkers pretend doesn't rewrite their lives. It was a sticky August evening in 2018, the air thick with the scent of street falafel and distant thunder. Jonathan, then 29 and freshly laid off from his gig as a graphic designer for a fading indie mag, was hustling sketches to tourists outside Washington Square Park. His portfolio was tucked under one arm, a half-smoked cigarette dangling from his lips, bad habit from too many all-nighters dodging eviction notices. Austin barreled out of a coffee shop, juggling a laptop bag, a venti iced latte, and a stack of law briefs that looked like they'd been through a paper shredder and reassembled by a drunken turn. He was 31, all sharp angles and effortless charm. Tousled auburn hair that caught the street lamp glow like fire, green eyes that crinkled at the corners even when he was pissed, and a button-down rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms corded from weekend rock climbing upstate. He worked pro bono cases for the ACLU, the kind that kept him up until dawn arguing against the dying light of American bigotry. The crash was inevitable. Austin's latte exploded against Jonathan's chest, soaking his threadbare Mets tea in a cold, caffeinated baptism. Briefs fluttered to the puddle-strewn pavement like defeated birds. "Shit. Oh man, I'm so sorry," Austin stammered, dropping to his knees to gather the papers, his face flushing crimson under the neon buzz of a nearby bodega sign. Jonathan, ever the New Yorker, bit back a curse and crouched too, their hands brushing over a soggy deposition. A spark jumped, literal static from the humidity, but it felt like fate's cheap magic trick. "You owe me a shirt," Jonathan said, his voice gravelly from disuse, a half-smile tugging at his lips despite the mess. "And maybe a coffee that doesn't double as abstract art." Austin looked up, rain starting to patter on his lashes, and laughed. A deep, unguarded sound that cut through the downpour like sunlight. "Deal. But only if you let me buy you dinner too. Call it hazard pay for collateral damage." That dinner stretched into the witching hour at a hole-in-the-wall falafel joint on McDougal Street, where they split a plate of shawarma and traded stories like contraband. Jonathan confessed his freelance woes, the gnawing fear of being just another starving artist in a city that chewed up dreams and spat out bones. Austin spilled about his latest case, fighting for a trans kid's right to play soccer without her school's Bible-thumping PTA turning it into a crusade. "It's bullshit," Austin said, his fork stabbing a pickled turnip for emphasis. "Love shouldn't come with a litmus test." Jonathan felt it then, that pull like gravity shifting under his feet. He'd dated guys before. Sure. The brooding poets in Bushwick lofts, the gym bros from Chelsea who ghosted after one too many brunches. But Austin was different. He listened, really listened, his eyes locking on Jonathan's like he was decoding a map to buried treasure. By the time the owner flipped the closed sign, they'd kissed under the awning, rain sluicing down the gutters in silver sheets, Austin's hands framing Jonathan's face like it was the most fragile, precious thing in the world. They fell hard and fast, the way only broke 20-somethings in the village can. Nights tangled in Austin's walk-up on Perry Street, sheets smelling of patchouli and take-out pad thai, mornings waking to the fire escape rattling with pigeon coos. Austin's apartment was a glorious chaos. Dog-eared case files stacked like Jenga towers, a fiddle-leaf fig that defied urban neglect, and a queen bed piled with quilts from his Kentucky childhood, the kind his conservative folks back home still pretended didn't exist. Jonathan moved in 3 months later, his sketchpads colonizing the coffee table, his laughter filling the spaces Austen's late nights left empty. But love in New York isn't all sonnets and subway serenades. Jonathan's freelance dried up harder than the Gowanus Canal at low tide, forcing him into waitering at a Hell's Kitchen bistro where the tips were fat but the hours bled him dry. Austen's caseload ballooned, pulling him into marathon depositions and midnight strategy sessions with firebrand activists. They fought. God, did they fight? Over burnt toast and unspoken resentments, Jonathan accusing Austen of loving the law more than him, Austen snapping back that Jonathan's envy was poisoning the well. Once, in a haze of red wine and exhaustion, Jonathan hurled a mug at the wall, shards scattering like his fraying patience. Austen just pulled him close, murmuring, "We're in this, Jay. Messy as hell, but we're in it." The turning point came in the spring of 2020, when the world locked down and their bubble became the whole damn universe. COVID turned the city into a ghost town, sirens wailing like banshees through empty avenues. Jonathan lost his waiter gig overnight. Austen's virtual hearings blurred into a fever dream of Zoom glitches and pixelated pleas for justice. They hunkered down with Netflix marathons and homemade sourdough that rose higher than their hopes. But the isolation cracked something open in Jonathan, a bone-deep ache for more. It started with a stray comment during a binge of Modern Family, the laugh track mocking their childless couch. What if? Jonathan trailed off, his hand absently tracing the faded tattoo on Austen's wrist. A tiny rainbow flag inked during his undergrad rebellion. Austen paused the screen, turning with that lawyer's gaze that saw right through bullshit. What if we had a kid? Like, for real? The words hung there, heavier than the humid air seeping through the cracked window. Adoption agencies in New York were a labyrinth of paperwork and prying eyes, especially for two guys scraping by on Austen's nonprofit salary and Jonathan's sporadic commissions. But Austen didn't flinch. Then we fight for it. Same as everything else. They dove in headfirst, the bureaucracy a gauntlet that tested their mettle. Home studies where social workers poked at their mismatched dishes like forensic evidence. Interviews laced with veiled questions. And your families? They're supportive. Jonathan's parents, upstate Methodists who'd nodded politely at his coming out but never called, were ghosts in the process. Austen's Kentucky clan? A minefield. His mom sent passive-aggressive Bible verses via text. His dad, a retired mill worker, hadn't spoken to him since the wedding they weren't invited to, because New York didn't recognize holy unions like that back home. Ethan entered their lives on a crisp October afternoon in 2021. A 3-week-old bundle with cornflower eyes and a tuft of black hair that stuck up like he'd been electrocuted. His birth mom, a overwhelmed teen from the Bronx foster system, had chosen them from a profile photo. Jonathan cradling a sketchpad, Austen midlaugh with a mug of coffee. The paperwork finalized in a fluorescent-lit agency office, the caseworker's stamp echoing like a heartbeat. Holding Ethan for the first time, Jonathan's knees buckled. Austen steadied him, their foreheads touching over the swaddle, tears mingling on the baby's blanket. Ours? Austen whispered, the word a vow etched in starlight. Fatherhood in a pandemic-ravaged city was a grindstone around their necks. Sleepless nights pierced by Ethan's cries, grocery runs masked and distanced, Jonathan sketching children's books from a high-chair throne while Austen zoomed from the kitchen table. But it forged them. Austen cut back hours to be home more, trading billable glory for bedtime stories. Jonathan's art bloomed, commissions rolling in for whimsical illustrations of queer families picnicking in imaginary meadows. By Ethan's first birthday, they were a unit. Jonathan's wild curls tamed by baby spit-up, Austen's suits swapped for footy pajamas during story hour. They married in a backyard ceremony on Perry Street. Just them, Ethan in a tiny bow tie, and an officiant who doubled as their barista. Vows exchanged under string lights. In sickness and health, in courtrooms and chaos, I choose you. But shadows lurked. Austen's family, thawing slightly with Ethan's photos texted like olive branches, still whispered doubts. A boy needs his blood. His uncle slurred at a virtual holiday toast. Jonathan brushed it off, but the words burrowed like ticks. The bomb dropped in January 2025, 2 weeks before the custody hearing that would upend everything. Jonathan collapsed in their brownstone's narrow hallway, Ethan giggling at his feet with a wooden train. The pain was a freight train through his gut, sharp, unrelenting. ER lights blurred into a morphine haze. Stage 2 colon cancer? Aggressive. The oncologist's voice a drone over the beeps. Austin didn't cry in the hospital. He paced the linoleum, phone glued to his ear, rallying a network of specialists like a one-man war room. "We're beating this," he told Jonathan that night, curled around him in the adjustable bed, Ethan's portable crib humming softly nearby. "You, me, the bean." Full court press. Chemo was hell's own cocktail. Jonathan's hair shedding like autumn leaves, his skin sallow as the Hudson in winter fog. Austin juggled it all. Dawn runs to the infusion center, midnight formula feeds, his own cases stacking up like unpaid bills. He sacrificed his prized rock-climbing weekends for oncology playdates, traded sleep for Jonathan's fevered ramblings. Once, during a particularly brutal round, Jonathan woke to find Austin asleep at his bedside, briefs clutched in one hand, Ethan's stuffed giraffe in the other. "You're my anchor," Jonathan murmured, fingers threading through Austin's hair. Austin stirred, eyes bloodshot but fierce. "And you're our horizon. We don't sink without you." Remission came in June, a tentative flag planted on uncertain ground. Jonathan's scans glowed clean, but the scars lingered, physical and otherwise. Fatigue dogged him like a bad ex, and the medical debt loomed, a specter over their piggy bank. They celebrated with a quiet barbecue in Washington Square, Ethan smearing sauce on Austin's cheeks, the three of them laughing until the sun dipped low. That's when the betrayal slithered in. Austin's sister, Becca, fresh from a Kentucky church retreat, visited unannounced. She'd always been the bridge, tolerating Austin's lifestyle with gritted teeth hugs. But seeing Ethan, her nephew by blood, Austin's donation, anonymous through a clinic, flipped a switch. "He's family," she hissed to Austin over wine that night, while Jonathan bathed Ethan upstairs. "Real family. Not this experiment." The call came at 2 a.m. 3 days later. Becca, filing for emergency custody in Kentucky family court, claiming New York's degenerate environment endangered the boy, backed by Austin's parents, who'd dusted off old grudges, and a stable of affidavits painting Jonathan as an unfit stranger weakened by illness, Austin as an absentee workaholic. Jonathan found the papers on the kitchen counter at dawn, Ethan's crayon scribbles mocking the legalese. Austin burst in from a late deposition, face ashen. "Jay, I swear. You knew." Jonathan's voice cracked, the mug slipping from his hand to shatter on the tile. "Your own blood, Austin? After everything." Austin reached for him, but Jonathan recoiled, the air between them fracturing like glass. "I thought I could talk them down." Becca promised. "Promises." Jonathan laughed, bitter as black coffee. "Like the one you made in our vows? Or the ones to Ethan every night?" Ethan toddled in then, oblivious, clutching his train. Jonathan scooped him up, burying his face in the boy's curls, while Austin stood frozen, the weight of his family's venom poisoning the room. The hearing loomed like a guillotine. New York courts had protections, but interstate custody wars were a jurisdictional nightmare. Becca's petition argued best interest of the child, citing Jonathan's cancer history as instability, Austin's deviant life as moral peril. Their lawyer, a bulldog named Maria from Lambda Legal, warned, "We fight dirty, or we lose him." As the subway rattled them toward the courthouse that fateful November morning, Jonathan stared out at the blurred skyline, Ethan's head heavy on his lap. Austin's hand hovered, then settled on his knee. "A lifeline or a lie?" "I love you," Austin said softly. "Both of you. I'd burn it all down before I let them take him." Jonathan met his eyes, the hook of doubt twisting deeper. Love had built them. Betrayal could unmake them. But in Ethan's sleepy sigh he found his fight. The gavel had fallen once. It wouldn't again. The courthouse on Center Street loomed like a granite fortress, its columns etched with the ghosts of injustices past. Jonathan's stomach churned as they ascended the worn marble steps. Ethan balanced on his hip, clutching a sippy cup like a talisman. Protesters milled outside, queer activists in rainbow pins, counter-demonstrators with rosaries and signs decrying Sodom's theft of innocence. A news van idled curbside, camera crews hungry for the next culture war snack. Gay dads versus heartland values. Inside, the air was a cocktail of floor polish, desperation, and cheap coffee. Maria met them in the lobby, her power suit crisp as her no bullshit demeanor. Becca's team is stacked. Private investigator dug up your chemo records, Jay. They're painting you as a ticking time bomb. She glanced at Ethan, softening fractionally. But we've got character witnesses. And Austin's testimony. Play it straight. Emotions win juries. Austin nodded, jaw set, but his eyes darted to Jonathan like a man awaiting execution. The betrayal festered between them, unspoken in the green room where they waited. Jonathan bounced Ethan on his knee, humming a ragged twinkle twinkle to drown the murmur of clerks. Daddy US, Ethan lisped, reaching pudgy arms toward Austin, who scooped him up with a choked laugh. Right here, buddy. Austin buried his nose in Ethan's neck, inhaling that baby shampoo innocence. For a moment, the room receded, the three of them an island in the storm. Jonathan watched, heart twisting. How many nights had Austin rocked Ethan through colic cries while Jonathan retched from treatment? How many times had he whispered, "Your dads love you more than stars"? The bailiff's call shattered it. Case 25 to 4782. Becca Harlan versus Jonathan Reyes and Austin Harlan Reyes. The courtroom was a wood-paneled coliseum, sunlight slanting through clear-story windows to gild the judge's bench. Judge Elena Vasquez, a no-nonsense Latina in her 50s with silver streaks in her bun, presided like Athena, fair but unyielding. Becca sat at the plaintiff's table, flanked by her shark of a lawyer, Harlan Sr. at her side in an ill-fitting suit, his face a mask of pious resolve. No hugs for Ethan, just a stiff wave that the boy ignored. Jonathan's side was leaner. Maria, a social worker named Tarek with a binder of glowing reports, and Austin, who looked like he'd aged a decade in days. Ethan fidgeted in Jonathan's lap, oblivious to the stakes, doodling on a legal pad with crayons Maria had smuggled in. Ms. Harlan, Vasquez began, peering over her glasses. Your petition alleges the child's welfare is at risk in New York. Elaborate. Becca rose, voice quavering with rehearsed sincerity. Your Honor, Ethan is my brother's biological son, donated in a moment of compassion. But New York? There's no place for a child. Drugs on every corner, strangers in the subways. And Jonathan, his illness. Cancer doesn't just vanish. It waits. Austin's so consumed by his activism he neglects family. Back home in Kentucky we have roots, church, stability. Ethan's blood calls him home. The words landed like fists. Jonathan's grip tightened on Ethan, who whimpered. Harlan Sr. nodded solemnly, as if scripture backed his claim. Maria objected on relevance, but the damage seeped in, Vasquez's pen scratching notes, the gallery murmuring. Cross-examination was a meat grinder. Becca's lawyer paraded exhibits. Jonathan's medical file, redacted but damning. Blurry photos of Perry Street's graffiti-tagged stoops. Austin's ACLU calendar, circled dates screaming, absentee. Mr. Reyes, the lawyer sneered. You collapsed while solely responsible for the child. What happens next time? Who raises him then? A partner too busy crusading for rights to change a diaper. Jonathan's throat burned. I beat cancer for him, he said, voice steady despite the quake in his chest. Every needle, every pill. Austin was there every step. We're his dads. The lawyer pounced. Dads? Or donors and dreamers? Kentucky offers legacy, not experiments. Vasquez called recess, her gavel a punctuation mark on the wound. In the hallway, Jonathan paced, Ethan dozing against his shoulder. "They're winning," he hissed to Maria. "Turning our life into a freak show." "Not yet." She thrust a tablet at him. "Our turn tomorrow. Austin's up. He needs to sell the sacrifice." Sacrifice. The word hung like smoke. That night, in a midtown hotel, their brownstone too tainted now, Jonathan confronted Austin over room service burgers. Ethan splashed in a bubble bath, his giggles a fragile shield. "What did you give up for us, AUS? Really? Because right now, it feels like you handed them the knife." Austin set down his fork, eyes hollow. "Everything, Jay. My family gone. I cut ties after the donation, told them it was anonymous. But Becca found out through some clinic leak. And work. I turned down a corner office at a big firm last year. 6 figures, stability. Chose pro bono so I could be home for Ethan's firsts." Jonathan's anger deflated, leaving ache. "Why didn't you say?" "Because it's not a ledger. It's love." Austin crossed the room, kneeling by the tub to blow raspberries on Ethan's belly. The boy squealed, water arcing like joy. "I climbed Kilimanjaro once solo. Thought that was peak life. Wrong. Peak is this. You fighting like hell, me holding the line. They made love that night, urgent and tender, bodies mapping old scars." Jonathan's port sight faint under Austin's lips. Austin's tension knots melting under Jonathan's hands. "Forgive me," Austin breathed into his neck, "for not being bulletproof." "Always," Jonathan whispered, even as doubt whispered back. Day 2 dawned gray, rain lashing the windows like accusations. Austin took the stand, sworn in with a hand steady as steel. The plaintiff's lawyer circled like a hyena. "Mr. Harlan Reyes, you donated sperm casually, then vanished into New York's underbelly. Regret now." Austin leaned into the mic, voice resonant. "Casual? I vetted every agency, prayed over it. Yeah, me, the atheist lawyer. Ethan was never casual. He's our son. Yet you let your sister raise him?" The lawyer waved Becca's affidavit, her tear-streaked photo projected large. Austin's laugh was sharp. "Raise?" She saw him twice birthdays via Zoom. "When Jonathan got sick, who drove the chemo runs? Me. Who quit climbing his escape to afford the copays? Me. I sold my truck, cashed my 401k. For them." The courtroom stirred. Vasquez leaned forward. "Elaborate, counsel." Maria rose, objecting to hearsay, but Austin pressed on, unbidden. "Your Honor, permission? This isn't just testimony. It's truth." Vasquez nodded, intrigued. Austin's gaze found Jonathan across the room, Ethan coloring quietly, a fierce anchor. "Jonathan collapsed last January. Stage 2, they said. I held him while he puked rainbows from the drugs. Ethan was 3, terrified, asking why Daddy J was sad. I read the same bedtime story 50 nights running, Goodnight Moon, until my voice cracked. Turned down a promotion 70 grand bump because it meant 80-hour weeks. Chose nights in, not nights out." Becca's lawyer interjected, self-serving. "Your sacrifice doesn't erase the risk." "Risk?" Austin's voice rose, raw. "The risk was losing Jonathan. Losing us. I wrote letters to Ethan during rounds, sealed for his 18th. Told him how his dad fought like a warrior, how I learned love from watching them. That's sacrifice. Not some ledger, but my whole damn future on the line for 4 years of chaos and grace." Silence fell, thick as fog. Jonathan's eyes burned. Ethan's crayon stilled. Becca shifted, uncomfortable, her father's face paling. Vasquez tapped her pen. "Noted. Redirect." Maria's questions peeled back layers. Austin's volunteer shifts at Ethan's daycare, teaching queer history to pint-sized allies. The homemade Halloween costumes, superhero dads saving the day. The quiet vow renewals in Central Park, Ethan tossing petals like confetti. But the plaintiff countered viciously, subpoenaing Austin's emails. Old barbs from Jonathan during chemo fog, fights over burden. See? Resentment festers. The boy deserves better. Adjourned for the day, the hotel room felt like a cage. Jonathan paced, Ethan napping fitfully. You gutted yourself up there, he said to Austin, voice thick. For what? They're still spinning it. Austin pulled him down onto the bed, arms a barricade. For you. For him. If we lose, at least they know what they're stealing. That night, thunder rolled over the skyline, lightning fracturing the dark like cracked promises. Jonathan dreamed of Kentucky fields, Ethan vanishing into golden wheat, Austin's hand slipping from his. He woke gasping, Austin's whisper chasing the nightmare. We're enough. We have to be. Day 3 witnesses. Tarek testified first, his report a litany of stability, Ethan thriving, bilingual from Jonathan's Spanglish lullabies, Austin's puppet shows rivaling Sesame Street. Then neighbors, the lesbian couple downstairs, vouching for playdates and shared snow shovel solidarity. The bodega owner, who slipped free empanadas during lean months. Becca's turn was poison. I love Ethan, she sobbed, dabbing Kleenex. As family, not this parade of strangers. Her dad followed, Bible in hand. Proverbs 22 verse 6, train up a child in the way he should go. New York's way is perdition. The gallery gasped. Maria objected, sustained. But the seed was sown. Judgment deferred a week, temporary order granting Becca supervised visits. Jonathan's knees buckled in the elevator. Austin catching him as sobs racked free. They're touching him, Jonathan gasped. Your blood, Aus. What if he chooses them? Austin's face hardened, green eyes storm-lit. Then we remind him of home, of us. The week blurred into agony. Becca's visit at a neutral park was a farce, her cooing forced, Ethan's cling to Jonathan blatant. Dada, he whined, burying in Jonathan's jacket. Becca's smile cracked. He'll adjust. Nights, Jonathan sketched furiously, portraits of their life. Austin's laugh lines, Ethan's dimples. Their hands intertwined over a birthday cake. Austin poured over appeals, coffee cold. Vasquez is fair, he insisted. She sees through the piety. But doubt gnawed. Jonathan's cancer scar itched, a phantom reminder. What if I'm not enough? The sick dad, the artist flop. Austin cupped his face. You're the heartbeat. I'm the lungs. Together, we're unstoppable. The reconvening dawned crisp, leaves skittering like escaped secrets. The courtroom hummed with anticipation. Reporters in the back, activists holding vigil outside. Vasquez entered, gavel soft. I've reviewed all. This case isn't about blood or borders. It's about home. She listed findings. Jonathan's remission proven, stability affirmed. Austin's sacrifices, financial, emotional, elevated to exemplary parental devotion. Becca's petition, motivated by bias, not best interest. Becca gasped. Her father muttered prayers. Custody remains with petitioners, Vasquez ruled. Full permanent. Supervised visitation for petitioner Harlan. Pending counseling. The gavel fell, victory's echo. Ethan clapped, mistaking it for applause. Jonathan sagged into Austin, tears soaking collars. We did it. But as they exited, Becca's voice cut. This isn't over. Blood wins eventually. Outside, rain had cleared to blue skies. Activists cheered, cameras flashing. In the chaos, Jonathan pulled Austin close, Ethan between them. Your sacrifice, he murmured. It saved us. Austin kissed his temple. Our sacrifice. Always. Yet in the subway home, Ethan's head lolling on Jonathan's chest, a shadow lingered. Betrayal's bruise didn't fade overnight. And across state lines, grudges simmered. Home tasted like redemption and takeout lo mein. The brownstone's familiar creaks a bomb after the courthouse siege. Jonathan kicked the door shut, Ethan wriggling down to unleash a tornado of blocks across the living room rug. Austin dropped their coats, exhaling like a man surfacing from depths. Pizza? He suggested, voice light, but his eyes searched Jonathan's, gauging the fault lines. God, yes. Jonathan forced a grin, scooping Ethan for airplane spins that dissolved into giggles. The normalcy was a drug, chasing away the week's venom. They ordered from Luigi's extra cheese, the ritual as sacred as any vow. While waiting, Austin cracked beers, clinking bottles in a silent toast. To kicking ass. To not getting our asses kicked. Jonathan sipped, the cold fizz grounding him. Ethan toddled over, demanding up, and they obliged. A three-way hug that smelled of crayons and cologne. Dinner was chaos. Sauce smears on cheeks, Ethan's mangled slices flinging toppings like confetti. Stories flowed. Exaggerated tales of the judge's eyebrow arches, Maria's killer closing. Laughter bubbled, real at last. But when Ethan conked out mid-storybook, the quiet rushed in like tidewater. They tucked him in together, lingering over the monitor's soft breaths. In their bedroom, lamplight pooled gold on the duvet. Jonathan undressed slowly, scars bared without shame. Austin traced them, fingers reverent. Beautiful, he murmured, pulling Jonathan down. Their lovemaking was unhurried, a reclamation. Lips mapping freckles, breath sinking like old jazz. Jonathan arched under Austin's touch, whispering, "I thought I'd lost this." "Lost you?" "Never." Austin's rhythm steadied them, bodies a dialogue of forgiveness. After, tangled and sweat-damp, Jonathan confessed the dreams. Ethan in overalls, waving from a porch swing, Austin fading like smoke. Austin held tighter. Nightmares. We're solid now. But solidity cracked at dawn. A certified letter slid under the door, Becca's appeal, filed in Kentucky Superior Court, citing jurisdictional oversight. New York's ruling? Liberal bias. Demands full custody transfer or federal escalation. Jonathan's coffee turned to ash. She's not stopping. Austin scanned the pages, face grim. She can't. Interstate compact. New York holds. Until she doesn't. Jonathan paced, the rug fraying under his steps. Your family hates us, oust me especially. The sick queer who stole their legacy. Austin crossed to him, hands on shoulders. Stole? We built this. Ethan chose us. Those gummy smiles, the data chance. Blood's just biology. The fight simmered low that week, undercurrents pulling at their seams. Jonathan threw himself into work, illustrating a picture book on families like stars, scattered but shining. Austin dove into countersuit briefs, his laptop glowing late into nights. Ethan sensed the shift, clingier, his tantrums spiking over spilled Cheerios. Thanksgiving loomed, a minefield. Jonathan's folks bowed out. Flu excuse, but really avoidance of the drama. Austin suggested a quiet one. Turkey from Zabbers, a park picnic if weather held. Just us, he said, flipping pancakes one Sunday. No pilgrims progress. Jonathan nodded, but Becca's shadow loomed. She texted Austin. For Ethan's sake. Let me see him. Holidays matter. Austin showed Jonathan, who deleted it unread. Holidays with vipers? Pass. Yet guilt gnawed Austin. The golden child turned prodigal, now pariah. Late one night, Jonathan found him on the fire escape, cigarette smoldering. Relapse, stress-fueled. Can't sleep. Austin exhaled smoke rings into the chill. Thinking about Dad. He called today, voicemail. Come home, son. Fix this. Like I'm the fracture. Jonathan sat beside him, stealing the cig for a drag. You are home. Here. I know. Austin's voice cracked. But part of me misses the farm smells, Mom's cornbread. What if Ethan's missing that too? The question hung, a hook in Jonathan's gut. He's 3. He misses nap time and trucks. Not some mythologized Mayberry. They stubbed the smoke, retreating inside to spoons and whispers. But the seed sprouted doubt. Holiday arrived crisp, Bryant Park aglow with market lights. They bundled Ethan in a puffy coat, his mittens comically oversized. Hot cider steamed, pretzels dusted with salt like fresh snow. Ethan chased geese, shrieking delight, while Jonathan sketched the scene, family portrait in charcoal smudges. Austin watched, love raw in his eyes. This is it, Jay. The win. Then his phone buzzed. Unknown Kentucky number. He silenced it, but Jonathan saw. Becca? Austin nodded, jaw tight. Ignore. But ignoring wasn't erasure. That night, back home with turkey carcass picked clean, Ethan down early from the cold, Austen cracked. She wants a video call. Just her and Ethan. 5 minutes. Jonathan froze, fork midway to mouth. No. She's family. Our family. The words exploded, plate clattering. She weaponized that. Your blood betrayed us. Austen stood, voice rising. My blood? Yours ghosted when you came out. At least mine tries. Twisted as it is. The room spun. Jonathan's chair scraped back. Tries? By ripping our son away? After you sacrificed your job, your health, for what? To keep one foot in their door. Austen flinched. I sacrificed for us. But family isn't disposable. Ethan's got Harlan in him. Harlan? The name on the petition that nearly broke us. Tears hot, Jonathan grabbed his jacket. Go call your sister. Bond over blood. I'll be at the bar. He stormed out, November wind whipping his face, tears freezing on lashes. The dive on Bleecker was dim, jukebox crooning Springsteen, Thunder Road. Ironic as hell. 2 whiskeys in, regret bloomed. Austen's texts lit his phone. Come home. Please. Jonathan did. Cab fare burning a hole. Austen waited on the stoop. Breath fogging, no lecture, just open arms. I'm sorry, he murmured as they climbed stairs. You're right. Blood's not bond. Inside, they thawed with cocoa, Ethan stirring in sleep. Promise me, Jonathan said, head on Austen's shoulder. No more cracks. Promise. Austen kissed his crown. Sealed. Winter deepened, the appeal grinding through gears. Christmas twinkled, tree strung with popcorn garlands Ethan helped make. Gifts wrapped in newsprint comics. Jonathan's book deal landed. Stars Like Us, a queer adoption tale, advance enough to dent the debt. Austen framed the contract on the fridge, toasting with eggnog. To Horizons. But Becca's lawyer deposed them New Year's Eve, virtual from a sterile office. Questions probed like scalpels. Jonathan's recurrence risk, Austen's divided loyalties. Ethan played blocks nearby, babbling interference. Love you, Dada. The lawyer smirked. Adorable. But sentiment isn't stability. Ruling came Valentine's week. Appeal denied. Sanctions on Becca for frivolous filing. Victory lap was dimmed. Exhaustion, not champagne. It's over, Austen said, nuzzling Jonathan over takeout hearts. Is it? Jonathan traced Austen's palm. Or just intermission? Spring bloomed tentative, cherry blossoms dusting Perry Street like confetti from a stalled parade. Ethan turned 4, party at the park. Piñata cracked open by tiny fists, cake smeared on cheeks. Austen's gift? A swing set for the backyard they'd scraped to install. Jonathan's? A locket with their photos inside. Dad's forever. Becca's final play came unannounced. A courier with papers for Austen alone. Paternity suit. Claiming sole guardianship. Arguing donation contract voided by changed circumstances. No Jonathan. He was erased. The unrelated guardian. Austen's roar echoed through the house. Jonathan found him in the kitchen. Papers shredded like confetti gone wrong. She won't stop. Thinks she can carve me out. Leave you behind. Jonathan pulled him close, heart hammering. Then we end it. Full adoption for me, your name on Ethan's birth cert, mine too. No loopholes. Austen nodded. Fierce. Lawyer tomorrow. The process was swift, Vasquez fast-tracking. Hearing in May, Ethan in a tiny suit, clutching a stuffed bear. I do, Jonathan echoed, voice thick, as the judge stamped finality. Becca's absence spoke volumes. Defeat conceded. Outside, under magnolias, they kissed, Ethan between. Family. Summer hummed, beach days at Coney, Jonathan's book launch in a Soho loft, Austen arguing a landmark case on queer foster rights. Nights, they danced slow in the kitchen to Coltrane, Ethan asleep upstairs. But scars twinge. One August eve, storm brewing, Austen confessed over porch wine. I dream of them sometimes. Dad's workshop, Mom's pies. What if I poisoned Ethan against his roots? Jonathan set glass down. Roots aren't chains. We give him both, your stories, my sketches. He chooses. Austin's smile dawned slow. Yeah, he does. Fall circled back, leaves turning like pages. Ethan's preschool play. Tree in a forest of families, Jonathan and Austin cheering loudest. Becca's last contact. A card. Unsigned. Happy birthday, nephew. Love, Aunt B. Neutral. Thawing? Jonathan tossed it. Water under. Yet in quiet moments he wondered. Could forgiveness fit? For Ethan's sake, maybe. The real storm hit October. Jonathan's checkup clean but cautionary. Annuals forever. Austin's hand in his. One battle at a time. Thanksgiving redux. Just them, table groaning with sides. Toasts to survival, to love's stubborn bloom. As pie steamed, Ethan piped, "Best family ever." Austin's eyes met Jonathan's, green and sure. Damn right. Outside, city lights twinkled. New York's promise. Flawed but fierce. They were whole, mended cracks and all. Betrayal's echo faded. Sacrifice's song endured. Winter's grip loosened grudgingly that year, but Jonathan felt its chill in subtler ways. The way Austin's laugh sometimes trailed off mid-note, eyes distant as if scanning old battlefields. The custody war had left shrapnel. Therapy sessions squeezed between Ethan's swim lessons and Jonathan's gallery openings, where stars like us had catapulted him from freelancer to mid-list darling. Critics called it a tender gut punch for the heartland. But Jonathan knew the truth. It was exorcism, pixels of pain rendered in watercolor whimsy. Austin, meanwhile, rode high on his ACLU win, a federal injunction protecting queer adoptions nationwide. Headlines dubbed him the lawyer who loved too fiercely, interviews probing his personal stake. He deflected with charm, but home he unspooled. They ask if it's political, as if Ethan's not the politics of my soul. Jonathan pulled him close during those vents, bodies aligning like puzzle edges worn smooth. You're the poet lawyer. Sue their asses with sonnets. Laughter bridged gaps, but Becca's ghost prowled. Spring brought her olive branch. An email to Austin, CC'd to Jonathan. First thaw. I've been in counseling. Church group on reconciling differences. Can we try? For Ethan? Austin showed it over breakfast, Ethan finger-painting oatmeal murals. Jonathan's spoon paused. Trap? Or genuine? Austin's hope flickered, vulnerable. She lost the suits, Jay. Maybe humility hit. Jonathan chewed it over, tasting caution. Supervised. Neutral ground. One coffee. The meet was set for Central Park. May Day bloom rioting in tulips. Ethan chased ducks by the boat pond, oblivious, while the adults circled words like fencers. Becca arrived subdued. Hair in a practical bob. No cross necklace, just a tentative smile. He looks happy, she said, voice soft. He is. Jonathan's guard stayed up, arms crossed. Austin bridged. Small talk on Kentucky rains, Ethan's new obsession with dinosaurs. Becca listened, no sermons. I was wrong, she admitted finally, eyes on her coffee cup. Fear talked. Mom and Dad. They're old school. But I see it now. You too, you're solid. Tears welled. She dashed them. Can I be Aunt Becca? Postcards, holidays? No strings. Jonathan glanced at Austin, whose nod was plea and promise. Maybe, Jonathan said. Slow. Ethan barreled and then, duck feather in hair. Auntie B. Ducks. Becca's laugh cracked the ice. Hugs exchanged, stiff for Jonathan, lingering for Austin. Progress fragile as eggshell. Summer unfolded golden. Family road trip to the Berkshires, cabin rented cheap off-season. Ethan collected rocks like treasures. Jonathan sketched landscapes alive with fireflies. Austin grilled steaks, stories flowing with the Adirondack breeze. His childhood escapades, skinny dipping in creeks, first kiss stolen behind a barn with the neighbor boy. Scandalous, Jonathan teased, wine loosening tongues. Survival. Austin's eyes darkened briefly. Came out at 16. Dad handed me a shotgun. Hunt your demons, son. Mom baked pies through tears. Jonathan squeezed his hand under the stars. You hunted ours instead. Nights in the loft bed creaked with rediscovery. Slow explorations, Austen's whispers mapping Jonathan's spine. My warrior. Mornings, Ethan pounced, demanding pancake towers. Their bubble impervious. Back in the city, Becca's postcards arrived. Drawings of bluegrass hills, notes on her therapy breakthroughs. Learning to love without ledger, one read. Austen pinned them by the fridge, a map of mending. Labor Day barbecue on the roof. Neighbors, lambda pals, Ethan in a tiny apron helping grill. Becca flew up, uninvited but welcomed, bearing bourbon and cornbread. Her hug for Jonathan warmer. Congrats on the book tour, she said, genuine. Stories swapped. Her job at a Louisville nonprofit, helping foster kids. Irony not lost. As dusk fell, fireflies winking, Ethan tugged Becca. Dance, Auntie, she obliged, twirling him clumsy, laughter pealing. Jonathan watched, thaw seeping. Maybe, he murmured to Austen. Redemption's real. Austen kissed his temple. Told you. Love bends, doesn't break. Fall's palette shifted. Ethan's preschool harvest fest. Jonathan's second book greenlit. Roots and rainbows, weaving blood with chosen. Austen's caseload eased, space for date nights. Jazz at Blue Note, hands linked across candlelight. But cracks spiderwebbed. October checkup. Jonathan's CEA levels edged up. Nothing definitive, but flags. Monitor, the doc said. Austen's face in the waiting room was a mask, cracking later over tie. You promised no more battles. Jonathan reached across. Co-battles. You, me, Bean. Therapy unpacked it. Austen's savior complex. Jonathan's imposter wound. Sessions raw, but fruitful vows renewed in Vasquez's court. Anniversary edition. Ethan ringbearer with a velvet pillow. Thanksgiving hybrid. Becca hosted virtually, then joined for pie via Zoom. Her table laden with Harlan heirlooms. Ethan's face pixel bright. Grateful, she toasted. Jonathan echoed, meaning it. Winter solstice brought snow, city muffled white. Holiday lights strung Perry Street. Ethan's awe at Rockefeller Tree a yearly pilgrimage. Gifts. Jonathan's leather sketch journal. Austen's climbing harness. Promise of spring escapes. Ethan's train set expanding the empire. New Year's Eve. They snuck a sitter. Slipping to a village speakeasy. Cocktails sharp, dances close. Resolutions, Austen asked, chin on Jonathan's shoulder. More us, Jonathan said. Less ghosts. Midnight kiss sealed it, confetti swirling like hopes. Spring 2026 bloomed bolder. Ethan's swim badge, Jonathan's tour kicking off in Boston. Sold-out readings, fans gushing, you gave me words for my family. Austen tagged along one night, surprising with backstage roses. Proud, he mouthed during Q&A. Becca visited proper. Weekend in the brownstone. Baking with Ethan, stories of Austen's toddler mischief. No sermons, just a quiet admission over wine. I envied you, the freedom to love loud. Jonathan nodded, bridge building. Envy's a thief, but family's a choice. Summer redux. Cape Cod this time, clams and kites. Ethan buried Austen in sand up to his neck, Jonathan snapping pics. Exhibit A. Defeated lawyer. Laughter waves crashed with the tide. But August whispered warning. Jonathan's follow-up showed a shadow, benign polyp, excised quick. Austen's vigil in recovery was silent prayer, hand vice-tight. Scared me, he confessed post-op, hospital bed creaking. Me too. Jonathan pulled him down. But we're pros now. Tag team champs. Fall harvest. Ethan's school play, tree again. Bigger role, lines memorized. Applause thundered. Becca in the audience. Clapping loudest. Post-show dinner, her treat, Italian in Little Italy. Toasts to branches, not breaks. Thanksgiving full circle. Kentucky farm, Harlan Sr.'s reluctant invite. Tension thick as gravy, but Ethan disarmed. Charming Gramps with truck tours, Mom with pie help. Jonathan hung back, Austen's hand anchor. Dad's grunt over turkey. Boys got spirit. Progress, pebble-sized. Winter wonder. Ethan's 5th birthday. Blizzard-bound bash indoors. Puppets, cake forts. Gifts piled. Becca's quilt, stitched with family trees. Harlan roots twining rainbow vines. As snow swirled, Jonathan watched Austen lift Ethan high, their laughter a symphony. "We made it," he said later, arms full. Austen's smile was sunrise. And more. Yet in quiet, Jonathan pondered. Sacrifice's price? Eternal vigilance. But worth every scar. The years folded like an accordion, each pleat a lesson in grace under gravity. By Ethan's 10th birthday in 2031, the brownstone had evolved. A skylight punched through for Jonathan's studio, where sunlight slanted across canvases alive with queer myths reimagined. Achilles and Patroclus as urban explorers, Orpheus coding symphonies in code. Jonathan's 3rd book, Echoes of Us, top charts, its TED Talk going viral. Family isn't forged in fire alone. It's tempered in the quiet forges of forgiveness. Austen, now senior counsel at Lambda, mentored a squad of firebrand juniors. His side hustle a podcast, Justice Jamboree, dishing legal lore with dad jokes. The climbing harness gathered dust less. Weekends upstate, Ethan belayed now, tiny hands sure. "Spot me, dads!" he'd yell, scaling granite like ambition. Becca wove in seamless. Annual visits, summer camps in Kentucky, where Ethan learned banjo and firefly's secrets. Harlan Sr. softened slow. First a fishing trip, then a grumbled proud son at Ethan's science fair, volcano model. Explosive as their history. Mom's hugs lingered, her Bible verses now paired with love thy neighbor, especially if he's family. Betrayal's scar faded to silver, a story Ethan knew in broad strokes. Auntie B was silly, but she learned. No details. Kids need shields, not shrapnel. Jonathan's health held. Annual's ritual. Austen's calendar circled in red. One scare in 2028. A false alarm that locked them in worry's grip overnight. Dawn's all-clear birth to pact. Quarterly getaways. Just the two, Bermuda beaches. Austen's toes in sand. Jonathan sketching waves. "Recharge," Austen insisted, "or we rust." Ethan bloomed. Soccer star with a sketchpad side. Crushes confessed in whispers. He's got cool hair. Like you, Dad J. Coming out at 12? Breezy family meeting, cake after. Bye, maybe? Like ice cream flavors. Applause, hugs, Becca's card. Flavors are fabulous. The high tide crested 2035. Austen's Supreme Court argument. Marriage equality's next frontier. Polyfamilies. Jonathan and Ethan watched from the gallery, ties matching. Win secured. Headlines hailed. The Harlan Reyes legacy. That night, DC Hotel. Champagne toasts. Ethan's junior high tales a chorus. But life's undertow pulled. Becca's call came mid-fall. Cancer, pancreatic, stage 4. "Time's short," she said, voice steel despite the rasp. "Want Ethan to visit. Say goodbyes proper." Austen flew down next day, Jonathan holding fort. Reports trickled. Farm hospice, Harlan Sr. bedside. Mom's hymns soft. Ethan packed a drawing, dinosaur auntie riding a comet. The goodbye was gentle brutality. Ethan reading stars like us. Becca's hand frail in his. "You were my star, kiddo," she whispered. Jonathan waited outside. Austen emerging hollow-eyed. "Forgave everything," he said. "Wished us whole." Funeral was Quaker plain. Kentucky dirt claiming her under oaks. Ethan scattered petals, Jonathan's arm around Austen. "She chose us. In the end." Grief's wave-crested winter. Austen adrift. Nights pacing. Ethan's bear hugs band-aids. Jonathan anchored. Therapy tag team. Hikes where words flowed free. Spring thawed him. By cherry bloom, Austen pitched a family trip. Yellowstone, geysers as metaphor. There, under bison herds and star-flooded skies, Austen proposed a sequel. Adopt again? Sibling for the bean. Jonathan's heart stuttered, health stable but echoes. Scared. Terrified. Austen grinned. Best kind of scared. They dove in, process streamlined by Austen's clout. Lily arrived 2037. 2-day-old with Becca's green eyes. Birth mom's choice. Strong names for strong loves. Ethan, 12, big brother solemn. Diapers changed, lullabies crooned. Chaos doubled, joy squared. Lily's cries pierced nights, Ethan's eye rolls charmed. Jonathan's art shifted, duets now, siblings in meadows. Austen's podcast eps, parenting pandemonium. Health's shadow lengthened 2040. Jonathan's routine scan flagged, recurrence, stage eye, caught early. Knife work, radiation zap. Austen's war room reactivated. Schedules juggled. Ethan/Lily briefed age appropriately. Dad Jay's tough, Ethan told Lily. Like Hulk. Remission rang bells again, but toll exacted. Austen's burnout flare. A month sabbatical climbing Kilimanjaro. Solo recharge, Jonathan's blessing. Post-summit call. Miss you. Perspective's a bitch. Valleys look small from peaks. Jonathan laughed. Hurry home. Lily's plotting coup. Ethan's teens tumbled. Braces, first heartbreak, boy with a skateboard. Prom with Austen's old suit tailored. Gay. Jonathan asked casual over tacos. Questioning. Ethan shrugged. Your fault. Too much love in the air. College apps loomed 2045. NYU film, his shorts queer fables. Becca's quilt-draped dorm bed. Harlan roots in Brooklyn soil. Empty nest echoed 2047. Lily off to Bard, poet like Jonathan. Brownstone hushed, they rediscovered. Salsa classes. Austen's hips hilariously stiff. Europe rambles. Paris kisses under Eiffel glow. Austen's retirement tease 2050. Time for us. Jonathan's graying curls. Austen's laugh lines. Silver foxes. Unapologetic. One crisp autumn, Washington Square. Full circle. Ethan, home with partner, they slash them. Tattooed artist. Lily trailing. Picnic sprawled. Falafel echoes. Stories looped. Remember the coffee spill? Jonathan nudged Austen. Best mess ever. Austen's hand in his eternal. Ethan raised cider. To spills, sacrifices, stubborn love. Sun dipped, city pulse thrumming. Jonathan leaned in, whispering, worth every fight. Austen's eyes, still green fire, every one. In twilight's hush, family wove tight. Blood, choice, scars as threads. Sacrifice wasn't ledger's end. It was the loom, weaving lives resilient, radiant. New York's skyline winked complicit. Messy, magnificent. Theirs. Humanity's arc bent not by heroes lone, but hands clasped, defiant, devoted. And in that clasp, redemption hummed eternal.